Hey everybody, it's Dr. Julie Quinn here, and I'd like to give you a tour of Module 2 for the class, which should be starting very quickly in the term. We're finishing Module 1 up right now. So go ahead. I am in under Course Menu. I usually just go to the Learning Modules, and I hop right into Module 2. You will see the Module 2 introduction is right here. I'm going to go ahead and just open much of this up so you can kind of see it and you get a sense of what the writing assignments are for the week. Okay, let's start with the introduction. Okay, so Module 2 introduction is just a landing page, so there's not a lot to read, but it sort of primes you for what's happening for the week. We're going to talk about audience, so who's going to be reading these texts, and audiences of different genres and the influence of genre and audience choice. Are you writing academically? Are you writing for personal reasons? Are you writing for professional reasons? Are you writing for an unknown audience? Normally we will be practicing identification of audience because that often tells us how formal should our text be, for example. And we want to communicate within that genre. Like I always tell students as an example of this, that when you email me, don't email me from your phone. Get onto your computer and use a full keyboard and desktop and spell checker. Maybe even write your emails in Microsoft Word, which has the most robust grammar and spell checker, because your audience is a formal one. I'm your college English professor. And so having all the tools, and you can see your text on a bigger screen and you can kind of slow down the writing, helps you attend to that audience. So when you email me your questions and concerns, the emails come through crisp and clear. Okay, so that's what the overview is about here. And then you can toggle to, let's toggle through it the way it's set up. Let's just do that instead. Then you'll go next. You've got a discussion on genre, audience, and the writing situation, identifying the genre, and then identifying the audience. So this should be pretty accessible content, and this is just one big landing page for you. Again, my recommendations would be print this out and take notes in the margins. It will really help you retain the information longer term. When you're done with this reading, oh, and by the way, all of these pages have a listen option, which is great. Say you have to you're a busy professional and you're making dinner for your family. You could listen to this overview of the text, and it will save you a little bit of time. And then if you feel like you kind of missed some of it, you can go back and read it. But there are different ways to engage with the text. Within our textbook, you've got Chapter 2, Chapter 3, the section determining your audience, and you even have a video, introduction to audience and writing situations, but the video is only 2 minutes long. So there's a lot of reading this week, but it's not crazily long. So if we go into Chapter 2, for example, let's wait for it to pop up in our ebook. Again, I would recommend printing it out if you can, but you'll notice that this section, that's it. Within here, sometimes you'll see hyperlinks. Definitely go into those hyperlinks just to make sure you're not missing any important information. And if you have any questions about any of these genres and subgenres, by all means, reach out and let me know. Okay. Resources. This is a web page, considering your audience. Oh, that's where we were just at because we were forwarding over. My apologies. Hang on. Let's keep going here. All right. So one of your major assignments is this 2-1 reading response, exploring the text. Okay. So you'll submit your assignment in here. I know mine looks a little bit different because I'm on my professor view. But note with your assignment, these guidelines and rubrics are telling you exactly what is included in the assignment, how do you format it, how long should it be, and how your professor is going to grade your assignment. This table down here is what we call the grading rubric, and it tells you the categories that I'm going to give you grades for, and I'm looking for information in your possible primary or your main audience, additional audiences, we would call those secondary audiences, the appropriate genre, the appropriate regarding writing situation. Why are these audiences fit for this situation of the text? Are you attracting and guiding the audience? Like, are you drawing them in and keeping them focused? And are you using clear communication? So those are the elements of it. And what the assignment is to be is this, reading response guidelines. In this assignment, you will continue to work with the text that you chose in our first module. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. And by the way, you can always zoom in on any of your content to see it a little bit bigger. You'll continue to work with the text you chose for the project. So you're going back to it and rereading it, reviewing the notes you took, and so on and so forth. Like the reading response you completed last week, this activity will guide you in analyzing key aspects of the text. The assignment will prepare you to explain writer's choices in relation to genre and explain the choices in relation to audience, purpose, and subject of the text, right? So directions, you're going to create a Word document and you're going to answer these specific questions. Here's my recommendation, a paragraph on each one. Paragraphs don't have to be full page long, but organize them very specifically. For example, identify a possible primary audience of the text that you chose. On the basis of the core idea and purpose, which was related to earlier readings in the week, who do you think could be the primary audience? And then just keep in mind that you're thinking about who the writer might have chosen to address, not the audiences that you will address. You're addressing your college professor first and foremost, but that text may not be addressing college professors. You can also, how do you draw this out beyond a couple of words? Explain why. You could say something like, this is, the audience for this text seems to be, and this is because, right? So I want you to practice drawing out these discussions. The next section, what are the other possible audiences? Why are these audiences appropriate, right? Explain why both audiences are appropriate regarding the writing situation, and then describe how the writer attracts and guides the audience. Okay, so it's all about how did the writer anticipate their audiences, and are they being both accurate and proper in that work, right? So that is the focus here. So I'm looking for 5 paragraphs of a couple of sentences apiece on that assignment. Then what you're going to come across is the 2-2 written response, the audience understanding for your project. Please note, you're not writing on a brand new topic. You're actually writing about the text through your analysis of its quality. So we keep reading that text that you chose last week because you're going to end up writing an academic paper on it. So that's the subject matter. So all of this is all directly related. Being able to break down and identify the writer's audience and genre will help you prepare to talk about that text to your audiences. So let's take a quick look at this content right here, and let's see what it says. Okay, so note that you have examined the writer's choices in relation to audience and the text that you have chosen for the project. You will turn your attention to your own writing. How are you now going to talk about this text? This assignment will prepare you to identify the audience for each version of the paper you're going to write for this project. So you're going to do an analysis of that reading. That's your paper, and you write it to first one audience and then another. And here's a helpful tool that I think if you're getting a little lost, you can go right into the learning modules and go into Start Here. And within Start Here is a course map. And this course map just is the overview of like the entire class, and it gives you, it's like an infographic, and it says you're going to analyze that text you chose in week 1. You're going to explain a writer's choices, and then you're going to adapt the writing process to various writing situations. Now, in part 1, you're going to write for your own first audience when you're doing that textual analysis of the text that you're reading and reviewing at the moment. And then part 2, you will write this for the second audience. So you'll do some interesting modifications to it to be, say, for example, your first audience is professor, but your second audience is your classmates. There are different quotes, perhaps different ways to explain ideas, different type of language you might choose depending on who you're writing for. So I would scroll through this infographic. Last week, you chose the article you're going to analyze for your project, and you read it closely. You identified context, purpose, and core idea. This week coming up, you're identifying 2 audiences and writing situations, preparing for part 1 and part 2. You're continuing to read the article closely and analyzing it. Here's a recommendation. If you've printed it out and you've read it once, change the color of pen and new notes in the margins with a different color so you can see what pops out to you, and even a color highlighter during that second read. So then you'll get some very interesting sort of layered perspective on genre and audience. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. So you're doing a couple of interesting things in week 2. You are talking about audience and genre that you are anticipating from the original writer's perspective. What audience were they writing for? And then you're starting to think about your own audiences for this analysis paper. But it's all related to that original article. Okay. And then finally in module 2, with this written response guide, thinking about your own audience, you're going to identify your first audience and then your second audience. And you're going to write 4 paragraphs of this too. You'll describe the writing situation for your project and you'll explain why each audience is appropriate, right? Here's a silly example. You wouldn't choose professor as a primary audience and a group of kindergartners as a secondary audience. Probably wouldn't be, the secondary audience wouldn't be appropriate because of the level of language and sophistication, and kindergartners would not be able to read a college level text, right? You can, by the way, you can look at module 2 written response templates for grading. So you can use this template to remind you of all of the different pieces that are required. Identify an audience. So you've got that information listed in your document, and then you just write your paragraph perhaps below it. Okay. When we go back and we take a look at the response exemplar, the idea behind this is to show you the depth of discussion that is expected for this type of assignment. Be careful. Do not cut and paste or use information that's word for word from these templates. Is just to show you level of effort. Okay. And you want to write entirely in your own words, original content. Once you've gotten through all of this, what you're going to find is you're going to get little tips on how to be successful for the next week. And it actually bumps us right into week 3. But let's go back for a second. And let's go into module 2 again. We've just sort of skimmed the whole thing, but the look ahead, how to do well in module 3. Okay, so this is just giving you a little prep for once you've tackled this module, you're good to go. And by the way, because you have 2 written assignments for the week, I would spread them out. I would do 2-1, or the first submitted assignment. Submit it Wednesday or Thursday, and then I would submit the second one Saturday or Sunday. But work within your own schedule. Try not to do it all at once. I think some of the content can get blurred if you do it that way. I wish you great luck for the week. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Take care.